Welcome to Mentor Business Podcast, and we are live again. We are live on YouTube, LinkedIn, we're on live on Facebook, we are live on TikTok. So have any questions for our mentors? We are sponsored by mentorbusiness.com. Then drop some comments in and we will cover those questions on here. And today we are talking about risk in business. We're talking about the largest things that can really put your business at risk as entrepreneurs. So the whole idea of Mentor Business Podcast is we are here to give you the hard lessons from people that are doing it, not just business coaches. We are talking to people that are mentors, people that have done it before and go beyond theory, so that you can learn the lessons early so you don't make the same mistakes and save 10 years of your life as entrepreneurs, intrapreneurs, professionals, executives. So today we've got Chris Dowen, one of the mentors on mentorbusiness.com. He specialises in operation and risk. So welcome to the show, Chris. How are you going?
I'm good, thank you, Lewis. Thank you for having me on.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So your show on mentorbusiness.com then, tell us a little bit about that and what you cover in your 7 episodes.
So what I try to do within those is give people the learning that I've got. So I spent 30 years in the police doing operational risk, doing strategic risk. And there was a number of things I found during that are worth SME businesses implementing. So we take people through a program of 1 to 7 program of exactly what the issues are, what they can do, so they can come away from that with opportunities to improve their business from the learning that I've had and my clients have had.
Awesome. So background in the police then. I mean, you're like the Black Country, the UK version of Chris Voss, aren't you here? You know, the FBI negotiator, teaching businesses lots of lessons. And we've got the Birmingham version of that. So anybody that's on TikTok right now and you don't know about Birmingham, Peaky Blinders. So you're the Peaky Blinder, Chris Voss. So your history in the police then, what led you to do what you do today? Obviously in the police, you retire earlier, Chris. So you're still a young guy, really, when it comes to what you're doing here. You retire and then you've moved into doing this with businesses and teaching all these business owners what you do. What were some of the stories that you could share with us that led you to pursue this in your police retirement?
I think so I spent 30 years in police, and like you said, we're really lucky. We get to retire at a good age where you can then do something next. What I found from the difference between policing and the sort of business world is when I was in policing, things were very structured and very organised. So my last job, I was a Deputy Director of Intelligence within the West Midlands. So I led all of the intelligence work that we did, which was fast-paced, fast-moving, but had to be accurate. So it had to be good information that we could give to people, and we had to react in a very structured, organised way against law and legal elements. But also, we've got a big responsibility about protecting people's lives, haven't we, from that police point of view. But alongside that Deputy Director role, I also wrote or designed all the risk models for UK policing. So things around protests, around events, around assessing organised crime, immigration crime, all that sort of stuff. So again, what I found with that was the power of being able to use simple risk models that are very visual, that allow you to look at your business in one go. So one of the stories, the stuff I used to write, they would be presented to the Home Secretary for them to make decisions or to see around what the highest risks were within the UK. And what was really good was we could do that on a page. We didn't need hundreds and hundreds of pages. It could be done on one page and really visual. So if we can do that for the Home Secretary for organised crime, that's something that I wanted to then give to SME, managing directors, CEOs, to be able to do very quickly, very easily.
Well, this is it. And so I see a lot of investor pitch decks come to me. And I'll tell you what, Chris, the best investor pitch decks are sometimes just the one-pagers. Yeah. Where you just have a snapshot, you see the problem, you see the market, you see the big challenges that are in the industry. And by implementing my skills, I can go, well, that's where I can fix this business and start to not fix it, but I can add extra growth in there. So you're doing that though, but as a snapshot of a company, right? And these companies that you're working with now, what size do they range between?
So we've got small SMEs, so like sort of startup companies, all the way through to really developed, 120 million pound plus turnover businesses that have got factories they work with across the world. So like 10 factories across the world. So we go from very straightforward businesses through to really complex stuff. But what I find is that the people who've started them, it's a lot of it founders we work with. So they are really good at the skill that gets them through that door. So, if it's about cleaning, if it's about engineering, whatever it is, they're very, very good at that. What they haven't necessarily had the fortune of, which I had, was that training around leadership, around development, around risk management. And also, I found within policing, I had to do things that I could put in front of people like yourself, and in 20 seconds you could make a decision because it was that fast paced. So
Wow.
giving people, I think people think that you have to write risk and strategic things. They have to be 60, 70 pages.
Yeah.
You don't want that off me, do you? You want me to give you a picture that shows you all of your risks against each other and in a way that you can actually compare them. So like you say, it might be, and I'll talk about harm and how we assess harm in a second, but you might go, I want to understand all the reputational risks for my business.
Right. So it's not just physical risks about like health and safety, because people think risk, they think like health and safety, right? And look, that's really important because if you, as a business owner, you are in control of everyone's lives there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a big risk. But you're not just talking about risk there. You're talking also about risk from a financial perspective, from a psychological perspective, from the HR perspective.
Yeah, we do now. What we've realised as a business, we do an all-encompassing risk program for people. So if you want health and safety about us making your premises safe, we can do that for people. We've got specialists who do that. The specialism I sit in is the bit where, and we've got a software solution called Aura, and what we do within that is we create risk management plans for people. So you'll look at a theme, for example, cyber risk, and we get you to look at what's the impact on the organisation per se, the financials of the organisation, the reputational risk, the cost to your staff, the cost to your clients, and cost to the sort of wider public as well. So you can make a really informed decision. And a good example of that is we work with a couple of charities. So if they're going to make decisions about services they offer or things they will stop or start, they can actually look at it and say, well, how will it affect my staff? How will it affect the people we're serving? How will it affect the partners we're with? So you can make a really informed decision and share that with them. But we do like drop down, so it gives you a statement you can make. So, because what I've found is it makes it really consistent and it helps people really easily. So you and I could go through risk management plans for probably 10, 15 things in about an hour, really, really quickly. It's not, it's not mega detailed stuff you really worry about. It gives you a very visual view of things as well. So I think the key for me is, how can you do this fast? It won't be perfect, but it'll be better than doing nothing.
Well, this is it, mate. So we've got some questions coming through from YouTube right now and TikTok as well. We've got 35 viewers on TikTok at the moment, and they're asking different audiences, right? LinkedIn is also showing some questions at the moment. Different audiences, people on LinkedIn and the business owners that are getting it. And there's a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs on TikTok and YouTube at the moment. They're asking, how does this help them scale as an entrepreneur from today? I mean, we've got to make it really clear to them. A lot of people are aspirational. They see the Lamborghinis on Instagram, they see all this and they think that's business. But the reality is this is real business that we're talking about now, a mental business podcast. These are the real things that people are facing. What would you say to the people that are starting out now in the first couple of years, what they need to be focusing on when it comes to, not using the word risk or stuff, but to really make sure that their first couple of years are successful when they start up?
So I think the two biggest things I find from people who first start out is capacity and cash flow. So they are the things that they are your risks. The two things are, can you, if you're the person who runs this business, if you're not there, what's going to happen? At the start, you probably can't afford for somebody else to cover that for you. So if you just sit down, take 10 minutes and go, right, if I couldn't open up my shop or if I couldn't meet a client, what would I do? How could I do it? Right. 10 minutes, write down that. You've then got a range of scenarios of things you could do. So if it does happen, because the chances are you will be sick or you will get caught up in some accident or problem on a motorway, which means you can't get to work. How can you do that and your business still survive? So, what are the emails you'd send to your clients, what would you do? If you do it all beforehand and have it ready, during that crisis, you're not worrying about the crisis plus what to say. You've got the plan of what to do. So the things I'd do is spend half an hour working on your key things around your cash flow and your capacity.
Right. So cash is king, right? And this is where a lot of people, there's so many people, Chris, talking about revenue this, revenue that, and then they talk about the revenue of the company like it's their own bank account. Look, that bullshit does not make a difference. If you are so egotistical about your revenue, revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, cash is king. So some of the things you're talking about here to teach the next generation of entrepreneurs is that you've got to have this sort of stuff in place, these systems in place. Now, I love this, Chris, because I've worked with you with a lot of my companies as well. And what you will do is really get to grips and stress test my operation managers, stress test the commercial managers. Well, what if this happens? What if no, that won't happen. And then guess what? It does happen. And that has a big impact on the main thing that happens, which is cash. Yeah. So all these things that everybody's seeing on social media, the big fast cars, the dream houses and whatever, let's get real about it. That stuff doesn't happen if you don't get this stuff together that you're teaching on your, on this podcast to everybody right now.
Yeah. And I think all the different stages of business that we talk to, cash flow is the key as well. That bit about making sure you have enough to pay those bills every month and making sure that if you're going to grow, again, what we do around scaling with people is we do scenarios. So we just get people to sit in a room, and people can do this themselves. They just sit in a room as a group and go, what if? What if this happened? What if that happened? Right. And we use a thing called the probability yardstick. So we just go, right, so we talk from, it would be highly unlikely to almost certain that this would take place. So what you'd look at is go, will the sales director be going sick? Okay, looking at their history, they've never been sick ever, so it might happen. We've got someone who's got a history of illness, so they may be off quite a lot. So you can go, it's almost certain that's going to happen. Okay, let's focus on the things that are almost certain going to happen and do your what ifs around them. But it's actually quite fun because you could all sit in a room and come up with some really zany, crazy things that might or might not happen.
Yeah.
But just write them down because, it's like the stuff with the Twin Towers. It was a potential thing that was going to happen because there was a history, an attack had happened before. So to say it would never happen, people should have scenario modeled that and gone, this could happen. So there's things like that the Suez Canal being blocked, that sort of stuff, it can happen. So you have to work out what your response would be if your stock can't come through there. The Iran war at the moment, there's things we know oil prices will go up. So what will that mean to you now for the future as a business?
Well, yeah. And this is it. So we all know there's going to be an impact. I mean, straight away, if you've got fleet, right? If you are a business that's actually delivering stuff, if you've got an actual physical product and you're sending stuff out there, your overheads are going to go up. Well, not just overheads, cost of goods will go up because you've now got to spend more money on delivering stuff out there. So you can't compete on price all the time. And this is a good thing as well. When we're scaling businesses, right, this sort of stuff is important because we need to know if there's going to be any price increases in the future. We need to protect those margins because if you can't protect those margins and you absorb them, then the next thing you know is you can't afford to pay your employees, you can't afford to pay your suppliers, and you can't afford to pay yourself as well. So you have to ask the question, were you just better off in a job?
Yeah.
Rather than a business owner? It gets lost all the time, Chris.
Yeah. And I think that the interesting part for me as well is to think that through at the start. So are you going to be an organisation of quality that people come to you because you do exceptional things, give exceptional service, who will accept if there's a price increase because of world events? Or are you going to be someone who tries to compete to be, and I think it's a race to the bottom if you try and compete on price with people. But trying to compete on price is, unless you're going to do such high volumes, the challenge then though is if your thing's got 1 or 2 pence, the margin becomes then, so it's not then a sellable thing. So I think when you go back to that bit about what would I do as a startup is set out your key principles. So set out, are we going to be quality or quantity? Are we going to be price? If we have a rise, because there will always be we know now there's always going to be rises in your costs of your business. What are you going to do? And have things ready that you can even have conversation with your clients beforehand that goes, if there's an increase, we're going to have to pass some on, but we will pass X on, not all of it. So that stuff, think through beforehand. And again, I always tell people do this in 20-minute chunks, because after that, it's too much. Your brain can only focus for 20 minutes. Make it fun, write it somewhere. Don't make it too detailed. Don't make it too complex.
Well, the thing is as well, Chris, is nobody likes a price increase, right? Even the business owners don't like to be giving price increases. They have to do it. We have to do it because it's the way the economy happening. So you're familiar, one of my businesses is 25 years old. If we still had the same prices from 25 years ago, it wouldn't happen, right? I mean, that's just, look at the house prices and everything. So you have to have price increases, but there need to be strategic price increases, and the customer needs to be positioned as well. Because this is about their customer journey, okay? Yeah. They need to have that great, and you owe it to them to have a great customer journey where they're getting great value. So another part of this as well, Chris, of really important, is that a lot of businesses are missing out on bigger customers because they don't have the quality systems in place. I mean, there's different ways of making £1 million business or £100 million business. You either sell something 100 times or you sell it 1 million times for a lot cheaper, right? Now, the ones that are going for the bigger jobs, there's a lot more red tape around it. There's more legal things around it. You can get sued over stuff. You can get took to court over stuff. You can not even win the job. So in construction within the UK, for example, a lot of jobs you won't get in with large building companies anymore because of the red tape around it, the social governance around it, the health and safety around it, just having the right quality systems in place. And this is something that you do as well, which I think is always a big point, is that larger companies will miss out working with larger companies that don't always beat you down on, the price. So, but you need to be able to have the right quality to go there in the first place with them. And international shipping as well. It becomes a nightmare if you haven't got the right stuff in place to ship to other countries. Yeah. What's your experience with that when you are seeing and working with companies with quality systems?
So I think there could be a real change in this over the next few months, year. So at the moment, people, if they want to put you on their framework, they want to know if you've got an ISO standard. Ordinarily, they'll say, have you got, an ISO standard for risk management or whatever it might be. The challenge I have with ISO standards is they are very expensive and don't actually deliver a quality management approach. So they'll say to you, have you got a records around the fact you have a risk register or the fact you have a meeting that talks about risk? You could have that and you could have a meeting, but it could be the worst meeting ever that doesn't achieve anything. Yeah. So what we're trying to do with people is understand their business really well and say to them, right, rather have a nice, because at the moment, I think people want you to have one around risk, around stuff to do with ESG, so environmental, stuff to do with information assurance, and then other factors relevant to that sector. So we're saying to people, let's look at your business in complete isolation. What do you want to do? Which markets do you want to target? And what are those frameworks asking you to do? And then build a system that covers all of that and do it properly. So give you a proper leadership approach that puts your business plan objectives into your meetings, help people learn how to chair those meetings, help people to create tasks from those meetings that they can then manage. If you want to be that big, I think, so you as that CEO need to be able to sit back, sit in your office at home, not be in the business, and see that all these things working. So that's by the sense of seeing things are working. So we work with CEOs and MDs about how to get out of the way so that people can run the business for them, but also how can they monitor from a distance and use their spider senses to go, this doesn't feel right.
Yeah, well, this is it, mate, as well, because for anybody that's starting off in business, whether they're 1 year in, 10 years in, 20 years, and also there's the saying as well, look, you haven't been in business 20 years, you've been in your business 1 year 20 times, right? Yeah. If the business is not being scaled to operate without you, with these right systems in place, you're going to hit a constraint where there's only 24 hours in the day. So the hustle mentality will only get you so far before we have to actually get these structures. Now, you're talking to businesses here, Chris, that can be from like 500K plus pounds, by the way, for everyone who's in the US watching right now. So in even Australia, $1 million plus. If you are scaling and your vision is to get to 20 million, 50 million, 100 million, then you need to stop thinking about this stuff that Chris is talking about right now, because it will be a constraint very quickly. And look, there's more opportunity than ever right now to scale businesses with information that's available. But is it the right information from real people? And that's what I have a big problem with, Chris, because you're seeing this stuff from the industries and the companies that you're working with, and they're not small businesses, and they're having to catch up fast. So having a proactive approach to it is critical.
Yeah, I think probably our experience as a company is probably the best as well. We've just split our business into 4 divisions. I've now got people who head up each of those divisions. My role is weekly meetings, using our system as a governance approach, and using our sort of CRM systems alongside our risk management stuff to then manage that thing at a distance. And I am moving myself out of that business, so I'm not the constraint. So it isn't my capacity that's the constraint, which allows me to do this, allows me to do other specialist piece, but then I'm still developing people with the specialist piece, the knowledge, because I need to move out of that as well. I need to be able to sit across all 4 businesses. So, we can share. I can share my experience of that. But the amount of people I see now who enjoy the specialism, so they like to be the person who's the specialist, because it's nice, isn't it? It's a nice feeling that your business, you do the special stuff. The hardest thing is to move yourself out of it. And I think the thing that we try and help from a sort of coaching, mentoring perspective is, how do we become that conscience that sits on people's shoulder? So we're doing a lot of fractional sort of risk work, where I can sit on someone's shoulder and be their conscience and go, why are you doing that? Why is that? Why are you chairing that meeting? Why are you creating that register? Who else can do that for you? And it's that, I think that's the best way we can help people at the moment, is give them some software that gives them a structure and help them implement that and move themselves into a different place in the business where they can be most effective.
And this is where you come in then, Chris, because you've got the IT background as well, and you've also got the police background with the risk, and you're working. It's like a perfect triangle, isn't it, that you do to help businesses out. So this is key. And what I also like to point out as well is that something I found out from you is that cash is not an infinite resource, especially, well, not for any business really, but for the businesses that are like the SMEs out there. Cash is king, like we said. And we also need to know where to put the cash first. Yeah. So if you're just starting out in business, you may have the approach of approaching someone like myself or Chris, get an investment, get a lot of backing. I mean, I sit on the Dragon's Den for Birmingham, and what happens is that we get a lot of big pitches come across, and they'll want to take bit money off us. And it's like, well, okay, well, what are you doing with the money first?
Yeah.
Having your stuff would be a key for them, because it'd be like, this is what are we going to do first with that investment. So let's say that there could be 100K that's put in. Well, what's the biggest bang for buck? Yeah. What sort of risk have we got in losing that money? And then the risk after that is that we've run out of money, and we've also pissed off the investors.
Yeah.
And let's say you haven't got investors and you're just going at it and you're starting off and creating your own cash flow. Well, remove investor and now have the word bank account or accountability. I actually like having investors behind me, mate, because they give us accountability. And if you haven't got the investors, you can have the mentors and the coaches as well. But the accountability plays a big part there, Chris, and that's what you're mentioning.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I think if you're going to grow, so we're looking at that investment growth bit now, having people who come to the table with money, but also will hold you to account about what are we going to focus on first. The whole idea with our Aura software is we allow you to put your business into one place. So you can actually say, here's all my risks. Here are all here's my business plan and my objectives, and this is what we're working on. These are the people who are responsible for them. I think if I spend that amount of money on that will give me this return. So you can actually get really specific without having to write hundreds of pitch decks, because you can actually sit there with people. And it's like if people are, audited by Care Quality Commission or anyone, Ofsted or similar, you can actually go and say, look, this is our journey. This is what we've done. This is how we operate. Here's all our meetings. Here's how everything goes. So going to bank managers, going to financiers, going to investors, it's easier because you can talk. You can just show them your business, which is a lot more transparent, a lot easier to do, and they can see your passion for what you're trying to achieve as well.
It's evidence based, and
Yeah.
look at everything else. Anything that is theory, and this is my pet hate that I have around, you know, dare I say that academics or people that just read books. I think that's one part of the story, and the other part of it is to have this real evidence based, not theory based evidence, but evidence based stuff that's actually playing out in your own business. What's the story? So whenever I've gone to banks before and I've had to finance different companies, the banks want everything. They want the balance sheets, they want the run rate, they want to see the budget, they want to see the P&Ls every month. And it's good because it's not the bank that's being a pain in the arse there. That you should have this stuff anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that, you need to be learning this stuff. All right, learn it from the books, but you can save 10 years of your life just by having the right person around your boardroom table. And that boardroom table, if you've got no money and you're starting out, then who are the YouTube influencers around your boardroom table teaching this stuff? Want to go that next level? Who are the mentors around your boardroom table, or even the books that you may be reading? And then that'll only get you so far, that you then need to have mentors. And a lot of people rely on Instagram or still sticking to YouTube or TikTok. But remember, they're kind of marketers, really. They're there to sell you their courses, not to be around your boardroom table. So there needs to be a commitment and an investment in it. And I think that also comes into the risk plan as well, mate.
Yeah. And I think some of it as well is, so we charge ourselves out by the hour and my staff out by the hour, not by the day. Because what I've learned is, if you want a policy about something, if you want me to write a risk management response plan, my team could probably write that for you in 1 to 2 hours. Whereas it could take you weeks. So some of it is, how do you bring in, my background isn't sales and marketing because I didn't need to do that when I was in the police. So why would I spend a large amount of time doing that when I could bring someone in for short, defined periods of time? And this goes back to the bit where you need to be able to say to people, I really need you to help me get into, so the stuff we're doing now is, I want to get into the SME market in the Midlands area, and these are the key messages that I've got. Great. Let someone else do the work to put that out in the right environments, but you know exactly what you need. So I think there's that balance of bring in specialists, but bring them in for short periods of time, be really concise and work on it. Sometimes you have to invest to save, don't you? There's a little bit of, if we're not careful, I've had people, big companies, who've spent months trying to write business continuity plans themselves, and they can never find the solution. Right. I can go in and write it for them. So we've had a company, we used to go in a couple of hours, do a little bit of work with them. They then they do the work in the interim based upon what we told them, then back and did the little bit. So within an 8-hour block of time, they had a full business continuity plan for 39 different areas that was written by them with me giving a little bit of input, and it cost them 8 hours of time. I think that's the perfect role.
Well, this is it. And you're talking here as a business owner, right? I mean, you've got like 4 different verticals that go with your businesses.
Yeah.
So you're not just talking as a consultant here. You're talking as somebody that actually is that you're doing it.
I'm doing that. Yeah.
And very similar, with my businesses, I've got MDs now that run businesses for me, and they don't want more consulting. They want, pardon my French, they want the get shit done, the GSD. Yeah. They want the GSD happening. What does that look like? Well, they don't want more advice.
Yeah.
They want the accountability, which is why coaches are great. Coaches coach performance, mentors save you 10 years of your life. But there's a new world coming out now, mate, and that's the fractional stuff, right? People who are prepared to go, right, I'm not just going to talk to you about it. I'm going to roll my sleeves up and get stuck in. This is what I find as an investor as well lately. I'm having to pivot towards the investor that rolls the sleeves up and gets stuck in, because SMEs want that. Yeah. They don't just want money anymore. You watch Dragon's Den, mate. They want people that are like, we're here because we want a mentor, not because we just want some finance behind it. They actually don't even need the money anymore, mate.
Yeah.
So I think this is good. The fractional role that you do is that you would go in a company and say, look, there's an option here where you can do some mentoring with your operations person. There's some options here where you can go and get it done, do it yourself and just use the tools. Or if you want me as a fractional person, I'll just come and sit in the seat and do it for you.
Yeah.
But that comes at a cost, right? Because you're not cheap, Chris. your
Yeah.
experience. Which remember that saying, mate, as the person who got to fix the boat, the massive cruise liner boat, and it had broke down, and they came along, and he says, "Yeah, I'll fix it, but it's going to cost you 100,000." And he got there, got his little kit out, got a spanner and a hammer, hammered it for about 30 seconds, and it started working again. And they went, "Well, we're not going to give you £100,000 for that." And they said, "Well, you're not paying for my time. You're paying for the experience that I've had and the learning I've had to fix your problem."
Yeah, and I think what we try to do to overcome some of this stuff as well is we really want to work with people who want to scale, because I think that's the time for us to get involved. So a lot of stuff we try and do is we create bespoke things. So I've yet to have a client who wouldn't just benefit from us coming in and setting something up and then helping them understand how it works. So our plan is we're not there forever. We go in, set it up. If, for example, it's governance meetings, that sort of stuff, we show people how to chair it, we show people how to task it. We sit within their software as well, so we can just keep an eye on it. So the plan is that you pay short term, so there's a little bit of short term paying, lots of long term gain. So I think there's the bit about if someone wants me to sit with them 5 days a week, 365 days a year, it can become costly. But if you're doing SME the way we do it, because we've got this public service background, so a lot of it is we still want to get things done and do it for the good of those companies as well.
So you're going to teach us some stuff that you gave. Was it 7 lessons that you've got that you can teach, the real decisions that you've had to make in your business and around risk and what people should be looking for?
Yeah.
With the whole thing, mate, of like, this is real life situations to save you 10 years of your life for anybody who's really watching this. Yeah. So just again, we're streaming now on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Facebook pages, multiple of them, and we're on TikTok and Instagram as well. So give us your lessons then, mate. What can we teach people in business to save them 10 years of their life using your systems?
Okay. So I think the first thing for me is for people to understand the implications if they don't do it. So I think a lot of people will respond because if I don't do this, I'm going to lose my business. So the people who haven't done this, so I've got some facts and figures here that said during COVID, 70% of SMEs reported revenue decline. The ones who got structured risk and crisis management bounced back faster. So most, a large percentage of those went out of business. The others recovered because they'd got a plan. And that is probably an extreme example of stuff of what you're going to get, but more and more people are finding that.
Yeah.
What people are also finding, if they have an event or something that's a risk-based event that they haven't prepared for, it's predominantly between £17,000 is the starting point of what it costs them. So people need to think about, have they got £17,000 spare that they can just accept that they would lose that money?
What do you mean by event? When you say event, you mean them running an event or attending an event, or what do you mean?
Just like, so a risk incident. So if something happened, so if their biggest client lost, or if they had a fire at their factory, or they had an incident where people went sick for a period.
Okay. When you said event, I thought you meant like putting a party on.
No, sorry, yeah. No, so a risk-based incident.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of stuff here that talks about, 87% of firms think health and safety is their top risk. So if you're not on top of it, and that's not just having a health and safety risk assessment, that's being on top of the risks that you've got. So if you've got a factory where there could be an injury, it's no good just saying I've had a health and safety assessment. You need to make sure that what's practiced every day is the safe way of working. So it's about how do you do these daily habits. So it also gives you, I think, a competitive advantage, because if you're if you're in the market and there's you and somebody else and you want to compete on quality, not price, the fact that you can show people you've got really good ways of working, and lots of people at the moment have been asked for their business continuity plans. A lot of them are asking for their risk registers, but it is more now about what's your business continuity plans? Can we have a look at them? So that in itself, for me, is really big, because if I'm going to buy off you, I'm going to say, okay, show me your business continuity plans, but now show me one of them, what you do about them. They won't just want a list of stuff. They'll want you to be able to see them. So some of it's the quality bit, which allows you to then charge a better rate because it's a more quality organisation. People are also asking lots around supply chain. So they've made their supply chains much smaller, much more local to them. So whereas Jaguar Land Rover would have been buying from people all over the world before. They want to try and keep it close because they want to control that more. Marks and Spencers, other people. So you have an advantage to get in there if you can show the quality that they need.
Yeah, because a lot of people go for profit, and I think, they're learning from the wrong people. Again, we learn from TV. We're learning from people on TV saying, "Oh, I can get that cheaper from China," or we're learning from Instagram. People saying, "Oh, you can outsource and get stuff from China or get stuff from all over the country, all over the world." But the real world reality is that people will want to work with larger organizations, will want to ship local. They will want products from local, and they want to show that they're giving back because they've got these pressures. It's the same in any business, right? What is business? Solving problems and getting some sort of cash flow transfer across it, right? For solving that problem. The problem that they've got is that they have got a social responsibility. And if you can help them solve that problem by doing the stuff that you're talking about, Chris, then you'll get rewarded for it. So it's not always about margins and where can you get the cheapest price for your product or service for. You've got to think about this quality stuff.
Yeah. And I suppose the thing for me is what I'm conscious of, I don't want to overcomplicate it for people. So if I talk about the reasons why people don't implement, this is from some of my experience. So this is one of the videos that we do within mentorbusiness.com is I talk about a 20-20 approach. So your staff at the front end will take 20 seconds to read anything you write. The bosses will take a maximum of 20 minutes because you'll only have 20 minutes. So if I can't write something that you can read, understand, and use in 20 minutes, I've done the wrong thing. So about that 20-20, I like using 20-minute bursts on this because if you start, and one of the first things here is about people think it's really complex and costly to do this stuff. The tools we've built within our software are tools that I've built based upon my learning from policing, where we were having to do fast time response to things. So it's things that you can fill in really quickly. You don't need loads of training to do it. You can just move on and do it. So I think that it isn't as complex and costly as people think because you can do it to the level, and if they watch the videos, that in itself would give them the ability to do this themselves. It's all covered through that program. I think the second one is that lack of awareness and understanding. So people think they have to be experts in this world, but the reality is anyone can do stuff about what if something happened. You don't need a particular risk qualification to say, what if something happened in our business? Actually, people who run your factory know that better than I do. So you can all sit and talk about, well, what happens if these things went wrong? What would we do? The third one for me is that people are constantly now in the disaster management phase. They're constantly dealing with crisis because they haven't got any structure in place. So it's taking that little bit of effort to take yourself out of crisis mode and into planning mode, because you have to spend less time on crisis because things are structured and organised. It's just realising you've got to break the cycle somehow. The next one I think is that cultural resistance. So, we're working with the clients at the moment. They're just implementing the software around their performance monitoring and management. And some people, the fear of what it's going to be is worse than the reality. So I like, that bit about getting to the Kubler-Ross sort of U-shape through change. My view is do it as quickly as you can.
Just accrue that. So yeah. So that's like, first of all, you think you know it all until you actually start doing it.
Yeah.
And then, this is a scientific model you're talking about there, isn't it? So when they actually start doing it, they realise, shit, we don't know this at all.
Yeah. And the thing is, what they talk about is the longer you take for the things to change, the more worried people get. If you do things really quickly, in really small steps, in really incremental steps, it's a bit like cyclists, football, cricket now. They do incremental change, so it doesn't really feel lots are being done. But when you look back, you've done 20-30% improvement just by doing little bits. Right. So for me, keep it as part of your daily business. You do need some people who will need to understand risk, but they haven't got to be experts. Just do, and we're there if people need us. We offer an advice line, 30 minutes, conversation with us, go and do it yourself. So it's lots of that, just moving and doing. people talk about that lack of skills and resource, but I think for me, this is just a lot of it is common sense. A lot of it is what feels risky. You know, is your cash flow working? So it's just putting some simple structures in place. And then I think the bit about what people want to try and look at a lot is this: what's this return on investment? So they constantly want to work out. I'm going to put a big risk model in, a big risk approach in. What returns it going to give me?
Yeah.
If you do it small, do it simple, your return on investment, people will feel it because they'll spend less time in crisis. They'll spend more time thinking about the future than now. And I think the final one for me is people do it fragmented. So you get every department doing their bit rather than someone at the centre looking at this and saying, how can I implement something that's really easy for people, that sits across everyone, that they can do in 20 minutes? You know, everyone has to write their risk registers and they get really long, really detailed, but they don't need to be.
Well, this is it, and I really like that. By the way, I mean things land on my desk, and we've already got busy days, and this is where we become more valuable. Is that when you've got these busy days already, your times become shorter, but you've got it. These are all so important things.
Yeah.
So if you want businesses that can start working without you and start to scale without you,
Yeah.
then you do need to always be there. I'm a big believer of it, Chris. I don't ever think a business, you know, I mean, people are preaching about having these businesses work without you. There'll be one, they don't have businesses, or two, they have businesses where they secretly still have to be involved. Look at the greatest entrepreneurs, right? They are still involved in their leadership towards having these businesses. But what they're actually doing is that they're showing up for those 20 minutes and making a big impact so they can focus on other ventures as well. And that's because these systems are running these businesses and the people are running these systems that you're implementing. So this is key. It might not resonate with anyone, Chris. And I mean, I think any podcast listener, or, you know, we've got 72 viewers now on TikTok and things. Anybody that's seeing this stuff might go, well, that's not me yet. I'm not there yet. What would you say to them right now if they gave you that objection that this isn't right for them right now?
So
they know they need it, Chris, but they just don't, you know.
Yeah,
is it priority?
I mean, one of the really good things I watched the other day was the Gordon Ramsay program. So if you look at him, so he went and learned from the best people in the world, didn't he? So he didn't own businesses straight away. He went and learned from people.
Oh, he was a chef, wasn't he? You know.
Yeah. But he was brilliant at doing that. And then, but what he learned, I think, from people was how to get, like all his restaurants now, he never goes and cooks in any of those restaurants, but they all follow his principles, and he's still involved. So like you say, he's still around, he's present, he's involved in things, but he has to make like the really quick snap decisions around the 20 or 30 businesses he's got. So I think the thing I would say to people is don't have a journey and follow it. You haven't necessarily got to go from being someone who's got a great idea here to someone who's got 10 businesses tomorrow. There is a journey we all go on and we all learn. So the bit first is get your business sound. So get some simple principles working. So if ever, like one thing I always advocate to people is have a morning stand-up meeting. And they say do it as a stand-up meeting because if you do it on Teams, if you stand up, you'll only stand up for 15 minutes because it's tiring otherwise and you want to get on with stuff. So have a meeting where you check in with people every morning. You do it once, you do it at a set point in the day, because then your day is set up. If you're constantly ringing around people going, how you doing? How's it going? What's going on? Oh, you've got an issue. You need some help. Right, I'll ring Chris. Right, he can help you if you can do X. Can you do X? No. If you do all that in a meeting, one set time each day, and it could be over a cup of coffee, first thing, and your meeting might be 5 minutes long, because it might be, you used to have an agenda of what's critical. So what's a critical, anything happening critical today? No. Anything coming up that we need to be aware of and do together? Yeah, great. These are three things. How are we doing from a sort of cash point of view? How are we doing from a resource point of view? Great. 4 simple things, do it, move and move on. So I would suggest to people set up simple things, because I think everyone can carve out 20 minutes for themselves in a day to think about the risk. So do something that's 20 minutes.
I think look, we call that a huddle in our business. That's the structure that we put in, a huddle. we have a 1 hour meeting for the big huddle at the start of the week. We always do it at the start of the week so everyone's clear on what they need to do to not just work on in the business, but work on the business.
Yeah.
It tends to be with senior team, but the huddles are with everybody in the business just to set it off in the right mood. And I think from a culture perspective, that's really important as well, Chris, you know, the psychological element of it, because you're checking in on a scalable level as well.
Yeah.
Where you can read the room, you know, if there's something going on, if there's a bit of friction. And look, no words is words, right? Yeah. It's still communication, body language of people. You know, if anybody's ever studied NLP and things like that, you can see and feel it as a leader. You know, and I'm saying leaders here, I'm not just talking about entrepreneurs and business owners and management team. Anybody who is an employee now that's scaling towards being a manager in the future, you need to learn this stuff.
Yeah.
You need to learn, and the stuff you spoke about today, mate, and on your mentorbusiness.com course is critical for anyone in a management position if they want to become extremely valuable and increase their career and salary.
Yeah. I mean, I really like NLP because I think NLP is about what you say and how your deeds match what you say. So for our business, we have 3 values that we work to about being kind, being fair, and exceeding expectation. All our conversations centre around that because it's no good having values that are up on a wall that no one lives to. So if you have values, and again, when you first start out, work out whatever values your values are for your business, but use them all the time, refer to them all the time. So if this is about making your workplace safe, talk about it all the time because as you said, there's leaders within your business who sit at all levels. Some may never want to be managers, but they are leaders in the factory floor because everyone respects them and trusts them. So they're the people you want to make sure you can influence and follow your values. And someone always said to me once was, your team need to work the way you would want them to work without you being there.
Yes.
So you can only do that by instilling those values, whatever they are. I mean, I like 3 because I think 3 people can remember. I think if you have 10, 15, everyone will go, well, which value am I talking about now? Keep it simple, keep it straightforward, do it all, those 20-minute bursts. Everyone can achieve lots in 20 minutes.
I mean, core values, mate, this is important to the system side as well, the psychological side of it, is because, Peter Drucker, if anybody who doesn't know who that is, he's kind of like the godfather of science, so evidence-based stuff around business is not just opinion, of management. And what he says is that culture eats strategy for breakfast, right? Yeah. So the culture, you value things that are just on the wall. They need to live in that business. So we have 5. To go against your rule, mate, we have 5, but we put it into an acronym, right? So you have like an acronym around it so people remember it. And it's a bit of fun. People like those core values and they pick each other up on it and things, and it's a bit of fun. But ultimately, we hire on that. Yeah. We promote on values and we fire on it as well. Those core values are there, and this is the way that we run. And if they're not stuck at, I mean, for everybody who's listening on TikTok right now, if you are just on and I don't want to keep saying that because there are some big businesses on TikTok as well, but this goes for all entrepreneurs. If you are a one-man band and going towards 10 people, and you are still in the business, your systems there will start to be the thing that gets you leverage and scalability beyond you having to spend 10 hours, 12 hours a day in there, which is basically you've got a 9 to 5 job until you can start to have the business leverage and pay you dividends. You need to stop thinking of time for money, start thinking about how do you get paid as the business as an asset instead. But when you're not there, all the systems are great. It's like leading the horse to water. If your core values aren't there, then that's going to be the difference of how those people show up. And remember, your core values as a solo business owner, as a 10-person business owner, with you being there, is you. You've brought those core values into the business. But when you're not there, the core values will start to become the values of the common values that people are in there, right? So if you don't put values in and core values set in stone, accidental core values will start to happen. And that's where people will lose track of their business. And you know what, Chris, as well, I see this a lot in big investment companies. somebody will come in like from a group and it'll sound great that the group's buying in and they're putting loads of money in. And then what will happen is it won't feel the same anymore. But what you've done there is you've not kept your core values at the core. So if you are thinking that you're at that stage of selling your business, think about your people in your business. They may not be around if you are not putting these core values into your systems. So I'm really glad you brought that up, Chris, because that's the psychological side of what you're doing right now. And none of this will happen if the people aren't bought in.
Yeah, and I think that's probably one of the simplest ways of bringing a risk culture into this. So I like the fact that your team joke with each other about stuff and pick each, because they're actually reinforcing those values in a way that feels comfortable for them, using something that they know every day. So this thing about it being a safe thing. So you might have, we want this to be a safe environment, because that could mean lots of things, Connie. That could mean physical, it can be emotional, it can be lots of things. If you put something like that into your organisation and explain what it means, the people who work with you are happier because you've recognised them. You're actually going to do something about your risk. So you're actually saying to people, this is important to me. You keep on referring that. You've built a risk-based culture by putting 2 words or a word into your values. So if people do nothing else from today, is just to go back and work out what would they want. And I call risk is anything that affects your business. So it goes from health and safety through to your business continuity, disaster recovery, incident response, through to how you look and manage your staff and the size, the cash flow and stuff of your business. So anything that affects your business and your ability to operate effectively is risk. So just find something simple to add into your values, and you've gone one step closer to making you a risk-based business.
Amazing, Chris. Amazing. Like I say, you cover this in your 7 episodes on, mentalbusiness.com, which is the Netflix of business training. So all that's available for the same price as a Netflix subscription if people are interested in learning more about it or want to work with you even further. But before we close off, Chris, I want to talk about one final thing. And I think it's something that we all hold deeply, especially myself, of having children. Because you do something that's really important for the future of everyone's lives, really. And that's our next generation, beyond the entrepreneurs, earlier than that, who know whether will become in the future. And that's about the Martyn's Law stuff and safety. And I think this is a little bit off topic now, but important that we bring this to awareness now, because this is like a real life example of how far this can go when it comes to risk. Would you like to share us just like maybe a couple of minutes of what Martyn's Law is and the stuff that you're doing?
Yeah, so Martyn's Law has come about from the Manchester Arena bombing in 2017, Ariana Grande concert. A terrorist targeted her because she was an American singer, and it was to do with an American political decision. So they bombed her concert in Manchester. So 22 people died, thousands of people were injured, and then the emotional impact for people as well. So one of the people who died was Martyn Het. His mum, Fegan Murray, 18 months after that tragedy, went to another concert and saw that things hadn't improved.
Wow.
So she took it on as a personal challenge to try to make a difference. So she is now, they've created Martyn's Law is the protection of premises. It's a terrorism protection of premises act, which is due to come in 2027. And
Wow.
one of our divisions focuses on this. So we're trying to help. There's enhanced tier. So it's any premises or event that's over 800 people. So publicly accessible event over 800 people or premises over 800 people, or standard tier is 200 to 799. We're trying to help those organisations. So we've set up in a website similar to mentalbusiness.com, but for Martyn's Law. You pay £30 a month and you get all the tools you need to help make your place safe. Templates, expert speakers, etc. And the reason we've done it is very specialist. You need to understand counter-terrorism analysis. You need to understand what's reasonably practical for your business. So there's some good stuff, I think, there that helps them, but fits to these principles. It's about bringing an expert in to give you advice and guidance, and then to do the bits yourself that you know of your business really well. So anyone who's got premises or hold events that are over 200 people and publicly accessible, they need to read about Martyn's Law.
So this will be coming in as an actual, like fire safety is now, right? So just like fire legislation is right now, and you have to have fire reports for your business if you've got people and employees in there. This will be coming in soon around about anti-terrorism. What a world we live in, right? What a crazy world we live in. And I know there's a lot of stuff that you do with schools as well. Right? I mean, just to put a bit of a, to close that off, it's that I mentioned about my kids in the next generation, but you're doing stuff with schools now, and it's scary stuff. And there's more and more things now where terrorist things are happening within schools. And if it wasn't for people like you, Chris, bringing this to attention and doing the stuff what you do with risk, and then helping schools out with it as well, then I don't know where the world would go. So big thank you for that as a dad.
No, thank you. We're working with a number of colleges, and one of the colleges, the chief exec, said to me their biggest fear is someone's going to get a knife attack on their grounds. Now, for me, as a chief exec of an education establishment, the fact that that's the thing they worry the most about is it's hard for them, isn't it? Because that's the thing they probably know least about as well. So this is the bit, as you said, we want to try and make safe spaces per se. So we want to make public spaces safe, but use these principles of, because sometimes people only act when legislation makes them act. So this, for me, is the thing that's the hook that makes people do it. But the stuff around it, us being kind and being fair, is how do we help people who are in those environments sleep better at night, not worry about that to being the next thing for them, and help them be proactive in making people, and like I say, young people, we particularly focus around colleges, schools, making those young people safe, because we can then create a world where people are more considered of the risks that they face as well. So that without scaring them, we let them think about how can they make themselves safe, so become more resilient.
Yeah, and this then ties back into the business context, doesn't it? Really, of you're not just people's lives, people's your margins as a business owner, your responsibilities as a business owner, all covered. It's just thinking a bit more proactively around it. It's going to get larger and larger.
And I think the big takeaway for me is start today, do something today, and just set aside 20 minutes just to do something. Watch one of the videos. These videos are 7 minutes long on purpose. So it gives you time to get down, get a cup of coffee, sit down, watch the video, and it's still within your 20 minutes. So little bite-sized pieces.
And it could change the future of the people and your business and who you work with in the future forever.
So I'd actually say, Lewis Strong, I'd say it will. So I think it definitely will. It will. I've yet to find a business that we haven't been able to help that it has made a difference.
And it will come around, right? It's not fire, terrorism, quality systems, people, HR, risk, finance. It's not going to get any easier.
No. And I think
for me, easy, and no one's letting off on it, right? It's going to get tougher.
Yeah, I think this goes back to that fragmented approach. Is if you try and put stuff in for Martyn's Law or HR or new responsibilities, you do fragmented stuff, which is ineffective and more costly. If you look at how do you make your business safe, how do you make your business efficient, how do you put structures in place, they work for everything. It works for all of those things. So actually, less time, less money, better response.